Hey legends, Blake here with another video, and today I'm going to give you my formula for treating every single aquarium disease that you're likely to come into within the aquarium hobby. If you're like me and you're a big fan of Aquarium Coop and the things that they've done for our hobby in recent times, then you've probably seen their Med Trio and been incredibly jealous if you live in other countries. For example, I live in Australia, where we definitely have restrictions on things like antibiotics when using them in our aquarium hobby. So I'm sure this is a case that happens all across the globe. And if you are sort of unlucky that you can't have access to those meds, then hopefully today I'll have the solution for you. Before I do run through the specific meds though, there is just a quick couple of things I want to touch on. The first is if you are repeatedly encountering these things like ick, for example, which is incredibly common, then be mindful that these meds are going to be treating the effect, not the actual cause. And if it's a repeat sense, then make sure that you're keeping crystal clear water, giving them a nice varied diet, and keeping them in the conditions that they wish to be kept. That's making sure that they've got an appropriate pH, temperature, and things like that. If you get those foundations right, then realistically you shouldn't run into these issues very often at all. And if it's something that's becoming a real issue for you, then that's worth looking at first and foremost. But if it's a rare occasion and you've just had the things pop up, then definitely it's a great idea to keep all of these things on hand. Second one is, philosophically, I would recommend not sort of treating for treating's sake. I know some people do, but my personal view is that you become a far more accomplished, more well-rounded hobbyist if you learn to identify specific things and treat for that. It'll also be a lot cheaper than throwing every medicine in the cabinet at everything every single time. So for me personally, I'd rather identify something, learn about it, and then I'll be able to treat it a lot quicker and a lot less stressful on the fish in future. That's just my recommendation. I think before we go diving into really harsh medicines, antibiotics, and things like that, there is something that is incredibly cheap and a really great broad spectrum option that can sort of help many fish things, and that is good old-fashioned sodium chloride, salt right here. Make sure you don't use anything iodized, but this here is pool salt, which I get in a huge big bag. That's why it's in a little container right now, because I didn't want to load up the 20-kilo bag onto the desk. But Himalayan salt, aquarium salt, marine salt is really good. Whatever you like to use, salt is something that a lot of fish can take quite a lot of it, especially live bearers. The only real issue is if you have plants in the tank where they won't really enjoy the salt too much, but the salt can really help. Like us humans, it sort of helps us to sweat everything out. You know, we can replace some of those minerals and things like that that keep us nice and strong. And it works the exact same way for fish, so they can sort of get an extra layer of slime coat perhaps. You know, overall, I've treated a lot of things, in particular external parasites, with just a good dosage of salt and turning up the temperature, really getting the fish to sort of sweat everything off and replenish their fluids that way. Dosage rates for salt is 1 tablespoon per 12 liters of water, but it's one of those things that you can really add in extra or add in a bit less if you like. It's not one of those things where it has to be sort of scientifically really honed in and really measured. And the last thing as well that can be a little bit of a catch-all is a UV sterilizer, especially for external parasites and things going through your water. A UV sterilizer can really help to pull those things out of the water and pathogens and things like that. Basically, it works by running the water past a UV bulb, which is going to kill any microbes and nasties that are going to be free floating in your water. So it's not going to help with things that are already attached to your fish, but it might help if you are treating them to sort of get them out of there before they can reinfect. Now, on the flip side of that, UV sterilizers can also render a lot of these medications ineffective, so turn them off and remove carbon while dosing anything. But in terms of a long-term preventative, I like UV sterilizers as an algae inhibitor, a preventative for these sorts of things, and also, just a clarifier for your water. So for me, it's a pretty, again, a pretty easy one to just decide to put that in a sump or in the back of a tank, and you might find that you're not having these repeat issues as well. But outside of that, there's really only a handful of things that you are likely to come into contact with in an aquarium sense. Mainly you have internal parasites, external parasites, bacterial issues, or fungal issues. And that's pretty much it in a very simplified way. For me, by far the most difficult thing to identify is internal parasites, mainly because we can't actually see them to determine the different types and what they look like. So for me, I have 3 things that I use for that purpose. This is by far the bulk of what I'm going to talk about today. But the things that I use for internal parasites are this one here, which is Blue Planet Fluke and Tapeworm. And the brands and the actual sort of labels that these things are given are, for the most part, irrelevant. What I'm looking for is something that has praziquantel in it, which is going to be the thing that is going to be our dewormer, basically. The other one I like to use is this. This is Killworm. Another very popular alternative is Big L, which is just another brand, but this one here is a little bit cheaper. And the active ingredient we're looking for there is levamisole or levamisole hydrochloride. So it might seem a bit weird picking up a pig medicine or a bird medicine to put in your fish tank, and you do have to be conscious of your dosage rates, but I like to have praziquantel, levamisole, and the third one is this here, which is a big pink bottle. And this is used for cows, I think, and other agricultural things. There's a sheep and a cow on the front. This is Panicure 25, and this is fenbendazole. Be mindful when looking at Panicure. Panicure is a fairly large brand, and there are heaps of different types. So I'm going to talk about here Panicure 25. I think there's also Panicure 50, 100, and Panicure C. The main difference is the concentration. So the 25 is 25 grams per liter, 50 is 50 grams per liter, and 100 is 100 grams per liter. Now, can you substitute one or the other? Is it going to be cheaper one way or the other? I haven't really experimented much further than this because you get a lot. You get a whole liter of this stuff pretty cheap. I think it was like $20. So I'd have to check the prices currently, but I just picked up the Panicure 25 and I haven't worked my way all the way through it just yet. This stuff here, although it is really good for internal parasites, it is also really good for Planaria. And I recently treated a Caridina shrimp tank, my red wine shrimp, which had an infestation of Planaria, and I used this and it didn't kill the shrimp. So it's great even just for a Planaria and Hydra medication as well. Now, the other confusing thing is, especially if you're using poultry medicine or cow and sheep medicine, is the dosage rates. Obviously, the dosage rates on the bottles are going to be no use for us because we're putting them in the aquarium. So what is the dosage rates that I like to use? Panicure 25, I use 1 milliliter per 10 liters of water. And because we're talking about sort of very small dosages, of course, I recommend using a syringe like this one to make it nice and easy and fairly accurate. So 1 milliliter per 10 liters, write that on the bottle or put a sticky note on it. And that's what I use for that one. And the Killworm or any other levamisole product that has a concentration rate of 14 grams per liter, I use this at a rate of 1 milliliter per 7 liters of aquarium water. Also, levamisole, I do believe that it is light sensitive, happy to be corrected, but just in case, I dose this in the dark. So I dose this levamisole when the lights go off because I believe that levamisole reacts to light in such a way that it is no longer effective. So use this stuff in the dark. Unless there's a comment down below that corrects that, but I've always used it in the dark. Obviously, being a Blue Planet praziquantel product, we can just use the instructions on the label for this one, which is 1 tablet per 20 liters of water. And you can get different tablets, but this one has 100 in it. So heaps of water going to be treated with that. Now, with 3 different things for internal parasites, it can be difficult to know which one to use, especially because we can't actually see them. So what I do and what I would recommend the order you use them in is the levamisole first. If that doesn't do it, the praziquantel next, and then the fenbendazole last, because levamisole seems to cover most of them. If they don't, then the Prezi will probably get them. And the fenbendazole, mainly I keep it around for Hydra and Planaria. A couple of other things that are quite important when treating for internal parasites are, you have to make sure that you are gravel vacuuming every day at least, because what's going to happen is that eggs and the worms and the internal parasites are going to be shed out because of this medicine. So if you don't sort of get them out of the substrate at that point, then they will recover and go back into your fish. So I'd recommend giving at least 2 courses of each of these medicines. And generally what that means is using the dosage rates that I recommended, give it a 3-day period, and then redosing those. So of course, that's probably pretty confusing. So I'll give you the worst case scenario of the most brutal internal parasite that I might ever come up against. What would I do? I'd pull out my levamisole, I'd dose it at a rate of 1 ml per 7 liters of water. I'd put that in when the lights go off so that it's in the middle of the night. If I was really worried about it, I might black out the tank, but usually I don't worry about that. I'd give it 48 to 72 hours, gravel vacuuming every day. Dose it again at the same rate of 1 ml per 7 liters. Do the exact same thing, and then do a 50% water change. If the fish is still looking skinny, maybe you give it a period of time to try and feed them up to really see if they are still skinny. And if a week's sort of gone by and they don't look much better, that's when I'll hit them with the Prezi Quantel. Now, as per this, I'll dose 1 tablet per 20 liters. It can also be really difficult to dissolve this in water, so it's best to put the tablets in a net in the top corner of the tank and let it dissolve slowly. But you're gonna make a little bit of a mess in your aquarium with this stuff. So dosing at a rate of 1 tab per 20 liters, I'd do the same thing, gravel vac every day. Wait 48 hours, this one says, and then I'd dose again after a 25% water change. Wait another 48 hours, and if things are still looking really grim, and they're not really eating that much food, they're still looking very skinny, then I'd hit them with this stuff, 1 ml per 10 liters, wait 3 days, dose it again, gravel vacuum every day. And at the end of that, it's been about 2 weeks, and after that, the fish, they've got some sort of, super virus that, nothing that we have available to us was probably going to treat them. But rarely does that ever become the case, mainly only if you're catching it a bit too late, and they're pretty much already too far gone by the time you've started this process. Okay, so now that probably the most difficult one is out of the way, the next one I want to talk about is probably one of the easiest, and that is Blue Planet Multi-Cure. I've been using this for quite a while. This is, my 4th or 5th bottle of this stuff, and it's a great broad spectrum kind of one. It's got malachite green in it, methylene blue, which, they are pretty hardcore medicines, I guess, and they are going to stain your aquarium decor, the silicone, and other parts of it, and it's a bright green color, or a dark bright green color. It does have dyes in it, which are going to cause issues for your carpet and your tank as a general rule, so don't put it in your favorite display tank. But the good thing is that this is going to really sort of target external parasites like ick or white spot, velvet, fungal issues, and bacterial issues. So it's really great. Easy to dose, comes with the measuring cap on the top, and the dosage rate is 5 milliliters per 20 liters of water. Again, with this one, you're just going to dose it, keep an eye on things for 3 days, maybe do a 25% water change, and then redose. Really simple with this one because all the instructions are on the bottle. I don't recommend doing anything other than that. Be mindful of scaleless fish such as loaches, that you're going to use half dosages of this. So again, it's really important to get onto it quite early. And this last one is probably the most intense one that I'm going to talk about. We got Aquaricycline here, which is a broad spectrum antibiotic. It is one that, obviously we still have available to us, on eBay or in local fish stores. This one's going to be sort of a last resort for me for bacterial type of issues. But they're looking really weird. Maybe they're spinning in circles. Maybe they're just not acting like themselves. Their colors all washed out, or they've got a really advanced bacterial issue. Then we'll put in a little bit of Aquaricycline for them. With antibiotics, there are some negative long-term effects, especially when it comes to things like bacteria in your filter and your fish's resistance to antibiotics. So that's why I'll try to use this sparingly, but I do find it to be sort of a good bit of kryptonite to keep in the back of the cabinet just to catch any of those more serious things. You know, things like, especially people who keep nanofish, you've probably had it before where you've walked by your tank and like 5 tetras are wiped out all in one day. Or, you know, half your colony of whatever you're keeping, you know, has just gone like that. And at those times, you don't necessarily have the time to go and diagnose things when the fish are really in a rapid decline. So that is an instance where I would recommend to use this. Dosage rate again for this one is 1 tablet per 20 liters, super easy. The tablets can also be halved as well, which is pretty good. And you know, you can just follow the directions on this as well. I should also mention that even though I've covered off 3 Blue Planet medications, I'm in no way affiliated with Blue Planet. I've just picked them up and they've seemed to work, so I haven't really sought any alternatives. But I'm all ears down below if you comment, you know, your favorite brand, or if you've found something that is more effective than these ones that I'm showing here today. So there you go, guys. That is sort of my introduction, or my medicine cabinet for the fish room, if you will. Hopefully that has helped to sort of identify things that are going wrong, and maybe show you some alternatives, for example, that can treat those really, really difficult, nasty things that you've run into in the past. So really hope that helps. If you've got anything further down below, please let me know. I always enjoy engaging with you guys. If you did like the video, it always helps me out to smash like, hit subscribe, and all that fun stuff. And I'll catch you on the next one. Thanks for watching.